Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to grab a seat, a socially distanced seat, clearly you are allowed to sit next to your partner. That is allowed. Barry, Sue, you can sit next to each other. So grab a seat and we'll start shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. A really warm welcome, and thank you very much indeed for making the effort to come this evening. Before the chairman formally opens the meeting, I've got a few housekeeping points that I need to cover. Firstly, we have a socially distanced quorum. We needed 50 for the quorum here, and thank you very much for coming in, and we've just reached that. We've also got a number of people on Zoom and Facebook and YouTube as well, watching from probably all parts of the world. So, in accordance with recent government legislation, those attending virtually are permitted to vote and are counted as present along with those in the room with us here at the Keir Oval, which is good news. We've got a limit of 500 on Zoom. I'd be surprised if we require that limit, but there are people coming in every second at the moment, which is good. And we also have just over the 50 in the room, but we'll do a final count on that later on also. Those on Zoom will be able to participate fully in the meeting by asking questions using the chat function. And hopefully those on Zoom know where the chat function is, and be able to click on that. Chat function is currently switched off, but that will get switched on near the time. And questions will be harvested by John Surtees and then presented to the panel through me. Please be aware that members are being moderated on Zoom, so we've got them all on mute, and we'll be switching cameras off just to avoid any issues with people forgetting that they're on camera and then going for a shower. It does happen. We've all seen it on the news, so we'll do that. And the chat function, as I said, will be available once the Q&A session begins, but it'll be off prior to that to avoid disruption. All attendees can also vote. When a show of hands is requested in the room, it'll be quite clear. You'll be able to put your hand up. Those on Zoom will be prompted on your screen, and there will be a button to press, and you can vote yes or no. And the results, we hope, will be available in real time once a short period of time has been allowed for everybody to vote. As I said, we're also streaming the AGM on YouTube and Facebook to provide additional capacity. So it's a strange one, but here we go. Please welcome Chairman Richard Thompson.
Thank you very much, and welcome to our first, and I hope our very last, socially distanced AGM. This feels very surreal. But thank you, as Richard has said, for making the time to attend today. We live in very uncertain times, and we do appreciate everybody being here today and showing your support for the club. So, before I start today's annual general meeting, the 220th annual general meeting, may I begin to introduce you to the top table. We have Richard Gould, our Chief Executive, Martin Eden, our Honorary Treasurer, Andrew Lane, our Finance Director, Alex Stewart, our Director of Cricket, and Vikram Solanki, our Head Coach. And also in attendance, we have Cam Lally from Wedlake Bell and Callum Doyle, our Club Administration Manager. And attending via Zoom, we have Andy Halls from our auditors, Deloitte. Before I move on, obviously, we reflect on the previous year, and sadly, a number of the Surrey family have passed away over the last 12 months. And I would like to give special mention to some of those that we have lost. To Jim Banks, to David Brooks, to Jackie Butcher, to Joyce Coleman, Judy Edrich, Richard Favell, to Maurice Fowler, Jimmy Fulford, Nick Peters, Brian Rain, Keith Raymond, Emma Salisbury, Joyce Tipper, Keith Van Anderson, Mick Verney, and of course, Bob Willis. And obviously, for all those members' families that have been impacted by the ravages of COVID-19, we remember you now. So if we could ask everyone in the room to please stand for a moment of reflection. Thank you very much. And this feels like the appropriate time also to remember one of our fallen greats, a cricketer that got 33,000 runs for the club, who didn't have a gravestone. And as we have in the past with Sylvester Clarke in Barbados, thankfully to one of our committee members that realised he wasn't properly commemorated, the Andrew Sandham family reached out to us, and we ensured that Andrew, one of the greats of the club, was properly recognised with this wonderful gravestone that was put up in the last few months, I think, as well. So we never forget our own, particularly those that get 34,000 runs for us. So we remember Andy Sandham with this wonderful gesture. Thank you. So before we move on and we commence the meeting proper, I'd like to introduce our Director of Cricket, Alex Stewart, who will talk about last year and the up-and-coming season. Alec.
Thanks, Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Surrey are pretty good at timing things, so we've created the AGM on the day that cricket is going to return. 1st of August. We're going to be seeing 4-day cricket, 5 4-day games, with a final at Lord's, hopefully, at the end of September, early October. There's also going to be a 2020 competition, which has been agreed. I will try and embarrass him, but our Chief Exec, Richard Gould, has been a part of the professional game group and has done a tremendous job in making sure, one, that county cricket does return, and also in the right format. There's a lot of talk about, should we just play one-day cricket, white ball cricket? We're about first-class cricket as well. So on behalf of the dressing room, one, to our chief, thank you. And obviously we hope that members and supporters will be allowed through the gates in the coming weeks, if not months. But great news, great way to start the AGM, that we're not just going to have Zoom calls and everything else, but there will be cricket to play. Originally, it will start off being streamed, which John Surtees and others would ensure that that is a very good process. And ideally, by, if not August, certainly September, we do have people walking through the gates to actually watch some cricket. So very exciting times ahead. Just looking back to the 2019 season, it was a mixed season. Those of you who read my comments in the yearbook will have seen that I wanted to build on the success of 2018. It wasn't to be. League tables don't lie, competitions don't lie, and we know there are circumstances which affected how we played, but the bottom line is we want to do better and we will do better. Always find positives. The number of England players that we provided, you've heard me say on so many occasions, I want to make Surrey the best county in the country. and also believe we have a duty to provide players to England. That's a real priority, and we're doing that very, very well at the moment. I think I'm right in saying, and I'll stand corrected if I get it wrong, that we provided 7 players to England's first team last summer, including the winter as well. And to me, that is something we should be very, very proud of. Looking ahead, we've already got 9 involved in the England training camps that have taken place. Yes, Amar Verdi has come back, that's 8. Still involved, but it's in red ball test match cricket or white ball cricket coming up. So again, I think that's a real feather in the cap for the club. We've got to also say goodbye to some players. Last year, we said goodbye to Aaron Haranath, Stuart Meeker and Freddie Vandenberg, 3 Surrey players through and through, have come through the age group stuff, but sadly, professional sport is tough, and we had to make that decision to say goodbye, and we've wished them the very, very best in where they end up going. Aaron and Freddie have gone out of the game, and Stuart Meeker is down at Sussex, and I'm sure we'll see him in the coming weeks, if not months. But I think on behalf of everyone, it'd be right to say thank you for the service you've given to the club and good luck in the next stage of your career. You say goodbye, you've also got to welcome people, and we've made some signings which you'll have seen. We've signed 2 or 3 young lads, Nick Kimber, James Taylor and Dan Moriarty. Nico Reefer, who's come through the system, is here on a rookie contract. We've signed Reece Topley, which again was predominantly for T20 cricket. Will we see him, or will England steal him first? Time will tell. And another signing who is returning is Hashim Amla. We're still waiting to get a visa for him to come into the country. Everything is shut down in South Africa currently, but we're trying to get him in, as we are Mornay Morkel as well, who's currently in Sydney. But we're doing everything possible, and they're doing everything possible to get a visa in place to then allow them to come here and be a part of the season that we have left. We've also had to say goodbye early to a very special person, a head coach who won the county championship in Michael Di Venuto. Wonderful man. In the time he was here, he had made a real impression on the dressing room, hopefully on a number of members and supporters that were lucky enough to meet him. Circumstances that we've all found ourselves in meant that an early decision was made for the right reasons. Big fan of his. It would have been wrong to have brought him over here. He went back to Tasmania when shutdown was about to happen to be with his family. I like to judge people on performance, and with no end date or start date for the season, it would have been wrong to have brought him back away from his family while we're still waiting. So his contract expires at the end of March, and he's been looked after until the end of March. But we'd like to thank him again for everything that he has done for the club. To be the head coach of a championship winning side is something that can never be taken away from him. And again, I hope the club recognise that in time to come. And also that as members and supporters, we appreciate the work that he did, one, in winning the championship as the head coach, but also in helping develop the players that have gone on to play for England. Someone goes, another opportunity arises. And the man to my left, sat at the far end, has earned this right. I'm all about planning. And I have to admit, I've known Vikram for a length of time. When he was at Worcester, played England with him, and then he came back here as a player, and he was thinking about going out the game, and that would have been a waste to the game. Thankfully, he's one of the few people who potentially listened a little bit to me and said, stay in the game, you've got too much to offer. He was almost a second 11 captain coach, then became a second 11 coach, then assistant head coach, and now he's earned the right as the head coach of Surrey County Cricket Club, which isn't something he's just given, it's got to be earned. And in a short space of time already, he's had a massive impact in that dressing room and with the players. He'll speak in a minute when I introduce him. But again, Vikram, all I can do is, one, thank you for accepting the role, and secondly, I'm very, very confident that you will do that role justice, because he knows cricket inside out. Man management skills are outstanding. He cares about players, he cares about people, and he wants individuals and teams to get better. And I think those ingredients are pretty good for a head coach. So on that note, Vikram, thank you, good luck, and may I ask you to come up here and say a few words.
Evening, everyone. Thank you, Alec. I suppose I'd like to begin really by saying how proud I am to be given the opportunity as head coach of this wonderful club. The status and the history of the club is well documented, but I'd like to share with you why I'm proud. And it is exactly for this reason. I'm most proud because I've gotten to know the group of guys that have had some success recently, and the recent championship win was evidence of that. But I've grown to sort of get to know those group of players and seen them grow a little bit with England representation, and actually playing part about growing a team towards something successful. In addition to that, the support staff that Alec has put together is a wonderful group of people. It cares about the team, it cares about this club, and we really are trying our level best to make the members, you, proud of the team that we can become. And I sincerely hope that in years to come, you can be proud of the team that we are. A little bit of what has gone on recently. You'll be pleased to know that I've spoken to one or two people already, and you'll be pleased to know that the players were all very excited at the opportunity to practice again, having had some time away. It's been a bizarre set of circumstances. To be in the middle of the season and have no cricket is just very strange. Whilst they've enjoyed being at home, they've enjoyed being back at the ground to be able to practice. And now today's announcement that we are likely to play some competitive cricket, well, that's given them a real sort of spur as to what they want to go on and achieve. They've worked extremely hard. They're again strange circumstances under which we're practicing. There's all sorts of sort of protocols that we're adhering to, but by and large, we're all trying to make sure we follow the rules, yet still try and practice to give us the best opportunity to improve and challenge for all of the competitions. We've got a sort of a plan, and we were uncertain as to what the format was going to be. We weren't sure we were going to be playing 4-day cricket. We weren't sure whether we were going to play 50-over cricket. So in terms of planning, the idea was to make sure we start with red ball cricket, which is what we've been doing up until now. We'll have a brief, we'll have a week next week where we'll try and focus our attention on white ball cricket in light of the 2020 competition before returning back to a week of red ball cricket. There's a warm-up game against Middlesex, which we're looking forward to. And then hopefully, once we know what the fixtures are, we can then start to plan as far as how we attack exactly all of those competitions. I'd like to also, I should have mentioned this at the start, I mean, I'm grateful for the work that Diva had done with this group of players. I had a great opportunity to learn from somebody that was as successful as he was, and I hope to continue that work. This year is going to be different, I think. It's going to be slightly strange in terms of how we plan. There's likely to be, we're not sure of when our players, Alec alluded to it, as far as whether we can get visas in, what players we can get here or not. We're uncertain to some extent about what England players we're likely to have available to us and when they're likely to be available. But all of that aside, what we'll do is sort of whatever we have as far as players that are available to us, we'll try and make the best of that in terms of the teams we select, and we'll try and be as competitive as we can in all of the formats. I sincerely hope at some stage that you're all able to come and actually watch some cricket at the ground, because it will be a slightly strange just a strange atmosphere if there is cricket and there's not members around. I know the players will all look forward to when you are able to come and join us and be part of the club again. But that's about all I've got to say. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you, Alec. And I look forward to sort of getting to know you as and when opportunity presents themselves. Thank you.
I'm sure we really wish Vikram and Alec well later, and there'll be an opportunity to ask some questions as well. Ebony, unfortunately, can't be with us tonight, but she's sent a video to give an update on where we are with women's cricket. Ebony.
Good evening, everyone. Apologies that I cannot make today. I am gearing up for the test match starting tomorrow when you see this. So great to have some cricket back on our airways, and hopefully you can tune in. And also just want to send out, hope everybody is doing well in lockdown as well. Just wanted to give you an overview of the women's game at the moment. There's a lot of moving parts over the last 12 months. There's been a restructuring of the women's game. So I'll start with the KSL, the Kia Super League. For the 2019 series season, we finished in 5th position. Possibly one more win. We narrowly missed out on a game which would have seen us qualify for finals day. So that is disappointing to have not been able to really cross that line again, especially following the success we had a few years ago. But that competition is now finished, kaput, null and void, because there's been a bigger restructuring within the game. And so the Surrey Stars no longer exist, but we have the South East Stars, where we're joining alongside Kent and building a regional team and a regional model. With that comes some investment. ECB have put in £20 million into the women's game over the next few years, and that allows for the first time to have domestic women's contracts. So we have 4 players in our region who will move on to those contracts and just signed about a few weeks ago. And one of those key to note is Bryony Smith. She's come all the way through our pathway. She's very successful in the Stars, has made her England debut, and now one of the first to get a domestic contract. So brilliant from her. The person heading that up is Richard Bedbrook. So he's been our Surrey women's coach and the head coach for the Surrey Stars. So he was the best qualified person to take on that role. So that's brilliant from our perspective. So his title is Director of Women's Cricket for the region. Just to say as well, we've got 4 very good players that are signed now to the South East Stars. Bryony Smith, as we mentioned, and Sophia Dunkley is another name to note who played very well successfully for the Surrey Stars of late. In terms of the 100, as we know, that's been cancelled. Everything moves forward towards the 2021 season, so not too much to update on there. In terms of county cricket for 2019, the Surrey women, not the best on paper, finishing 7th in the county championship and 5th in the T20. We took a stance a little while ago, especially with the higher levels of the game, the Stars and the regional team, to field a very young side. We've seen players come through like Rihanna Southby, Alice Capsey, who are all in the England junior pathway. And so we're giving them a lot of experience. So that the Surrey women's side, although sometimes the results might not be perfect, we know that we're giving huge opportunity to players who are pretty much in their teens up to 20 years old. So that's an exciting opportunity that they've had. Top performers for Surrey last year, Bryony Smith with 558 runs and Hannah Jones, our captain and spinner, with 26 wickets. And then finally, looking ahead, well, the pandemic, of course, has been very disjointed trying to get cricket back on. Opportunities we're looking at is really trying to have some sort of competitive cricket from August and September. That's both for the women's regional and for the county. We're actually aiming to be one of the first counties to get a match back on towards the end of July, early August. So we'll keep you posted. But we feel that it's really important that, you know, when priorities are taking place, that we really focus on the women's game. So that's pretty much it from me. I hope you enjoy the rest of the meeting. No doubt I'll get a chance to meet you all, possibly at a game soon or in person, and have a brilliant meeting.
Thank you, Ebony. And those of you that have followed what Ebony's been up to as well, she's created an incredible program, the ACE program, the African Caribbean Engagement Program, which has unfortunately happened at the start of lockdown, but has already started to unearth some great talent very much within this community, which is really showing how much we're trying to reach out to the broader community and encourage that community to come back to the Oval. And Ebony has been absolutely outstanding in spearheading that. And Sport England now are looking at that as a program that they want to develop nationally. So that's full credit to Ebony. So, to the meeting proper now. First item on the agenda is the confirmation of minutes. Now, this is where it gets interesting because we're going to rely on technology and a show of hands here and a show of hands online. So, if you can just bear with us where I hope we get this right. So, firstly, we have the minutes of our previous AGM held on the 1st of May 2019. They've been available from the club for inspection at the meeting, both online and on request, and have been linked to an email sent to all members last week. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to see them. So if I could please ask for a proposer and a seconder to confirm the minutes of our meeting on the 1st of May 2019. Thank you. A proposer and seconder, thank you. So, if I could now ask for a show of hands in the room to adopt the minutes of the 1st of May 2019. Votes for? Thank you. And any against? Thank you. And now, those of you on Zoom, could you now have the opportunity to use your vote? And we will add those votes to the votes in the room. I can confirm that in the room, there was a majority of votes for the minutes. And on Zoom, Richard?
And 100% approval online, which is good.
Technology works. Okay. So far, so good. So thank you very much indeed to item 1. I'd now like to pass on to our superb Chief Executive, Richard Gould, to give his report. Richard.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairman. Just a few minutes, if I may, of your time. Firstly, this slide's too small for you to see, but it's what we use within the executive. It's our jobs list of all the stuff that we wanted to try and get done this year. And COVID has put paid to quite a lot of that, and we're currently amending our jobs list. And there's some things that have really come high up on our agenda. Firstly, we want to get members back into the ground as safely and as soon as possible. We're hopeful that there will be government guidance coming out in mid-July to allow members and spectators back into sports stadia. That'll go through a consultation phase, and I suspect will run alongside the Premier League turn of the football season, where they're trying to get people back in by the 11th of September. We may even get members in before that for cricket. That is certainly one of our main aims. Other elements, we want to understand the ramifications of ECB spending review. Clearly, there's a lot less money in the game this year and potentially in future years, so we want to understand how that's going to be prioritised. And also, we want to make sure that we are, without doubt, the most inclusive cricket club in the country. I think we already made good progress on that, but there's a lot more we can and should be doing. And I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned over the last month or two. So that's our jobs list as we're amending that. In terms of club members, we love graphs of that shape, and I'm so grateful for the loyal support that we have with our members that have allowed us to grow to that level. 75% of our members are renewed this season, so we can see that we've got an enormously loyal database. And having seen the growth in recent years, it kind of underpins the need for the delivery of One Oval Square and the developments that we're currently undertaking, that if you have a pop round the corner before you go, you'll see how well that's developing. In terms of the members, clearly a large and loyal fan base for which we're extremely grateful. And indeed, when you see the number of test match tickets that are sold to members, not just at this club, but at all other clubs, you very quickly understand that, that cricket club members are genuinely the steel core of cricket support in this country, and we do not take that for granted. In terms of not taking things for granted, I'm very grateful for the lack of emails and letters so far with members requiring their membership fees to be refunded. But we're not taking that for granted, and a decision on what we will do with membership fees will be made towards the back end of the summer. And thank you for your patience up until then. Up until that point, we're focused on really trying to get to the biggest degree of normality we can. We want to provide the members with as much value as we possibly can. So getting you back into the ground, that starts tomorrow on the roof terrace, where members are allowed to come in, use the roof terrace and watch the first test at Old Trafford. We'll be streaming all of the games to make sure that even if people can't get into the ground, we have excellent coverage, really good live streaming that we've got going on. And also in trying to make sure that people can buy tickets for next year. We know that we've lost a season of international cricket, and access to international tickets is an important part of membership. So we've made sure that, and we will make sure that members can buy tickets for next year. In terms of domestic ticket sales, we were hoping to head for our best ever T20 Blast season this season, but certainly on the back of an outstanding World Cup year last year. It didn't quite work out. We had some way to go, but we were about 17% down on our T20 ticket sales. On the flip side, 25% of tickets, of all tickets sold nationally for the 100, were from the Kia Oval. And we know a lot were existing supporters and members. And I think the message that we're trying to spread with the ECB is to ensure that they understand the value of an engaged club that we've got here, both with our spectators and members, and to make sure that sales that when they take place, they're not diluted across the T20 fixtures. The other great thing that we can see is that in terms of the demographic, the people that were buying tickets for the 100 are exactly the same as what we've achieved over recent years for the Blast. And so, you know, vast majority under 45, 18% women, 17% under 16s. So whatever they were trying to achieve with 100, which across nationally needs to be applauded, I can say that we're ahead of the game in ensuring that we've got a new fan base coming into the game to see Surrey play in the Blast. Finances, yeah. This is quite a scary slide. It shows the turnover over recent years compared to the turnover that we're expecting this year. It's stark and it's unprecedented, and it's something that all businesses, particularly in our sector, are having to deal with. What are we doing about that in terms of next steps? Well, firstly, clearly we need to reduce costs, and we've got significant amounts of costs that we need to cut out of this year, around £15 million worth of costs that we need to take out of this year. We are well set up to do that to an extent because we have a fairly small overhead. We try and keep that controlled. So a lot of our cost comes from variable costs, so where we bring on additional staff and all the rest of it for match days, and those match days aren't taking place, therefore we don't have the labour that needs to come in. Although we are acutely aware of the human cost that exists on people that rely on us normally for work, and we've been doing as much as we can to try and offset that and keep payments going. But we do have a restructure underway, so there are consultations going with a number of members of staff, and sadly we will be losing a significant number of staff over the next month or so. We also need to retain cash. We were the first club, once internationals were cancelled, to offer members and ticket buyers the opportunity to roll over tickets. So if you did buy tickets for the West Indies test, we were giving people the opportunity to roll over to the India test. We're really well received. We understand if people need their money back, that's fine. But so far, about 78% of ticket buyers have kept their money in and swapped it across to the India test match for next year. Yesterday, we did the same with the Ireland ODI. We're currently, I think, about 82% retention on that. That's really helpful for us. It keeps cash in the business. The P&L, the profit and loss, is probably dead for this year, but the cash is important. That keeps us going. We also need to keep our long-term projects alive. That means investment in cricket. We need to maintain that, particularly our academy and our performance setup, and that's what we're here for, and that's the number one priority. But also, we've done things such as delaying the purchase of the Oval House Theatre that you may recall that we've agreed to purchase. We've delayed that until the end of October, keep more cash in the business and allow us to understand the future. Reshape for 2021. We're doing a lot of forecasting to understand what the numbers are going to look like for 2021. We very much hope that the Bank of England is right and it's a V-shaped recovery, but we're not banking on that. So we'll make sure that we're in the appropriate shape to deal with that. And finally, we want to kickstart the recovery. Everything that we've been doing in terms of getting cricket back on, getting members back in, that's our focus, and we will go on doing that in clearly a safe manner, but an extremely determined manner. We're a cricket club, and that's our job. And we hope to kickstart the recovery starting tomorrow, 10:30, up on the roof terrace. Come and watch England versus the West Indies at Old Trafford. Chairman.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, there's some pretty stark slides on there, and we'll try and put some of those into broader perspective. Before I start my report, something that some of you may have already seen, but it's 175 seconds of outstanding archive and video that really brings to life the last 175 years of this great club. Play video.
This is Surrey County Cricket Club. Born in a tavern in 1845. The symbol of Kennington, we've seen London grow around us. Cricket's original champions, as Charles Alcock brought his vision to life and we cemented a reputation as a place of firsts. International football, FA Cup finals, international rugby, test matches, as well as where English pride came to die, before a great rivalry was born from its ashes. We share our feathers with royalty and pass on the honour of the brown cap through generations. We've seen England's best spend their careers with us.
Well, that's Jack Hobbs. Head and shoulders, yes, over all other living batsmen.
And the game's best finish under our gasometer. We've won 7 in a row thanks to Surridge, May, Barrington, Locke, Laker and the Bedser twins. In fact, we're well known for our famous siblings, but there's always been one family who've stood out. We saw the West Indies grip a nation on our doorstep, and a pioneer set records galore in the women's game. The end of the century brought a fresh take on Ik Dien, as Holyoake and his England teammates transformed us on the pitch. The changing of the oval skyline brought the greatest of finales.
There it is. England have regained the Ashes.
And an era of final test triumphs.
Alistair Cook has done it. A century in his last. Well played.
On our way to our own red ball century. We're one half of the game's oldest rivalry and its only London derby.
Can you clear the pavilion?
Local players are always the lifeblood of our side. But the world's best are attracted to us too. We've come through tragedies. Now we're home to world champions and cricketers of the year. 175 years have passed. There's much more to come. This is Surrey County Cricket Club, heart of London, pride of the county, the grandest stage in world cricket.
Thank you, Trevor McDonald. I mean, I've seen that. I mean, however many times you watch that, if that doesn't bring a little bit of hair on the back of your neck, I'm not sure what will. And I'm sure it shows us all what we're desperately missing at the moment, seeing some of those clips. But it was important that we found an opportunity within that very small clip to celebrate the past and capture the future. And be excited about what's to come. And clearly what we're going through at the moment is utterly unprecedented. We, as a county, as a club, in the last 175 years have gone through 2 world wars, enormous levels of national crisis, and now a global pandemic. We will get through it. But without your loyalty and support, it will be a lot harder. And hopefully that message is understood. Now, one thing that we're not able to do this year is to celebrate the 175th as we wanted to. I'm proudly wearing my badge, and I noticed a few of you others are as well. And this, I think, puts in perspective, this one slide, what it means to stand on the shoulders of greatness. And for those players that were voted by a very large number of members to become our greatest 11, I think the thing that stood out for me were the near misses, the players that didn't quite make the 11. Were quite extraordinary. But to see that selection, I don't think there's a side in the world that would beat that Surrey 11. And to see the man that topped the poll here tonight, of course, Alex Stewart. Congratulations, Alex. But again, to put into perspective, this is a very special club. Watching that video, seeing those 11 names on there, realise that we are part of something incredibly special and something that we are very keen to celebrate. So as much as this year we're prevented from celebrating 175th in the way that we would like to, we certainly intend to carry those celebrations over next year, or when we are able to celebrate such a fantastic landmark properly. Now, the Surrey family is talked about a lot. This is something very close to my heart that I talk about probably more than anybody. And there's a lot that we've done during this pandemic and crisis and continue to do that we haven't made as much of as others may have done. But I think it's appropriate at the AGM to remind the members what we have done for our community and how we've reached out. So many initiatives, from Sam Curran launching a very significant NHS initiative, to Amir Verdi, Ryan Patel volunteering for the Dons Trust and other things. We've had food banks in Lambeth that we've donated to, various charities that are in need that we've made sure we've done our bit with. Ricky Clark, Sophia Dunkley, volunteering for an NHS volunteer campaign. I mean, the list goes on, but we have, I believe, done our bit. You can never seem to do enough. And obviously, there's a long way to go in this particular crisis, and we will continue to do what we can for those in need. We also made several hundred phone calls to members that we felt were vulnerable and feeling isolated. Some of you may be in the room. We asked each player to give a report back on some of the comments. I've selected a few of my favourites here. I think Ricky Clark's chat to Mr. Conman was a favourite. He had a very good chat, turned out to be an Arsenal fan, but he's not going to hold that against Ricky. There we are, thank you. Well done. We don't like Spurs fans. Mark Stoneman to Mr. Dalby, who visits the Oval 4 or 5 times a year, arranged to catch up at the Oval, all being well, later in the season, and I think they're making a plan to do that. Jason Roy happened to ring somebody that was also a Middlesex fan, and Jason Roy reassured him that the Surrey investment was a far better one than the Middlesex one. Gareth Batty, talking to Mr. Fulford, offered to coach his grandson later on in the year, but probably the standout one was a Mr. A. Stewart calling a Mr. M. Stewart. Listened to him talk for nearly 30 minutes to put his shopping in order. We asked him 3 questions and he didn't even know who the Members' Pavilion was named after. So I think that's a special one just for the Stewart family to muster. But we will share with you later a number of clips of what it means to be a Surrey member and what Surrey means to you, because I think during this time it's important to reflect and realise what we're missing. As I move on, this is a slide I put up at each AGM, and I think it represents what our real balance sheet is. And this is our squad of 27 players, a lot of new faces on there. But the important part on this slide that is always the barometer I look for and talk to Alec a lot about is ensuring that 50% of that squad has come through our academy. Genuinely authentic, locally developed talent. And of that squad of 27, 14 have come through our academy. And what is a first is that we have a third of that squad now form part of the England development sides, both in white ball and red ball cricket. That's the most for probably 2 generations. And that's a testament to what Alec has done, what Diver has done before him, and I know what Vikram is very keen to build on. There's so much potential. When you look at that side, we know what we're missing out on. We're in mid-July, we're undefeated, but I think we would have been undefeated anyway with the quality of what we see in front of us. But as I say, our success has got to be built on substance, and winning the right way is what I believe has ensured we've built significant respect around the country. Moving on to the lockdown, we chose not to furlough our players. Unlike some counties, we didn't believe it was the right thing to do. I believe furloughing was designed for ensuring your staff were in imminent danger of redundancy. Well, we certainly were going to make no cricketers redundant. But what they have done by ensuring that they remained active has remained strong. These are a number of those images I can share with you. There's a few I can't. But they have worked very, very hard during this period where we couldn't bring them back to the Oval, and have done their very best to stay in shape. And I think we'll see that advantage when we go back and play properly on August the 1st. Now, it's probably not the best time to be involved in your biggest redevelopment in your club's history in the middle of a global pandemic, but you can't choose everything. One upside of this is that normally the building would have had to be suspended while we're playing, so at least we're ahead of schedule because we haven't had to stop. Unfortunately as well, the builders have remained on site throughout the lockdown as well. So we're well on plan to ensure that this is delivered next year. It is a groundbreaking development. The world will return to normal and we will need this capacity. And it will give members a facility they haven't got at the moment. You'll be able to walk straight through from the pavilion into this facility, and it will create much needed conference and events and retail space that we haven't got at the moment, and also capacity that we need for a growing audience and a growing membership. But it's something that I think we'll be very proud of, and I can't wait to see it up, and more importantly, I can't wait to see it full, which hopefully will return next year. As part of One Oval Square, we have our master plan, and I think, again, it's important to understand what the broader, bigger picture looks like. And what you're seeing in number one is what One Oval Square will finish up looking like, a very significant development offering us an awful lot to increase the scale of our business. Number two is the One Oval or White House Theatre next to it, and the theatre that will become a hotel. And this is the first land that we've acquired in our history. It's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to do something significant. If we have to delay the hotel, we will do it, but we will do everything we can to retain the purchase of that land, which is so valuable to us in the future. And then we have 3 and 4, the redevelopment of the Bedser stand and additional seating that we'd like to put into the OCS. That will follow. There are no costed plans for those things yet, but it very much forms part of our master plan that will ensure that we stay ahead of the rest. We're seeing how Old Trafford is involved in a very significant redevelopment. Lord's, absolutely groundbreaking development at the nursery end of their ground. We cannot be left behind. And this will ensure that we are not left behind. And we have a ground bigger than any other ground in this country, but more importantly, better than any other ground in this country. So over the coming 5 to 6 years, I sincerely hope, if it is a V-shaped recovery, we will be able to continue to build this. But certainly steps 1 and 2 are well underway, and we will see how steps 3 and 4 can play out, depending on the recovery that I hope we enjoy. So hopefully that gives you a sense of where we're at, where we're going. Obviously, there is an opportunity to ask questions after this. It's certainly something I commend our annual report and accounts to you, and hopefully you've had a chance to read them. And now in terms of speaking to the numbers, I'll introduce Martin Eden, our Honorary Treasurer. Martin.
Thank you, Chairman. This time last year I said I thought it was pretty good timing to take over as Treasurer at Surrey, and we've certainly had a bit of excitement since then on the financial front. So the events of the last few months has provided quite a few challenges to all of us, including financial and including to us as it has to other sports organisations like us and most businesses. And I'll come back to the impact of that in a second. But first, I want to report to you on our results last year, and they were outstanding results. Our turnover was £45 million, by some distance a record for the club. Our profit was £6.3 million, again by some distance a record for the club. And all of this, of course, was made possible by having an Ashes series and a World Cup in the same year, but you do have to deliver it. And our management team did an outstanding job delivering that, and I'd like to formally acknowledge that and commend that effort tonight. It wasn't only about international cricket. We had strong growth in revenues from our T20 Blast and from our membership, and our conference and events business generated over £6 million of non-match day income. And that broad base of revenue is a significant underlying strength of our business model. Most importantly, we generated over £7 million of cash. And as a result of all of that, we finished the year with a very strong balance sheet. We had group reserves of 20 million and our cash balances were 27 million. Now, I should point out those cash balances include cash from advance ticket sales for the current year, but our net current assets, and I've shown it there, which is a better reflection of liquidity, excludes the advance ticket sales, and that was very healthy at £12 million. And given what has happened since, our focus on building reserves and building cash has been pretty much vindicated. Let me just turn now to the current year and the outlook a little bit beyond that. Before the virus, as you've already seen, we were doing well. Our advance sales were strong and our non-match day income was continuing to grow. But even though, as I've said, our commercial activities are broadly based, we have been massively affected financially by the COVID crisis. Most of our revenue streams collapsed overnight. For this full year, our revenues are likely to fall, as you've seen, to around a third of the level they were last year. And we will incur a significant loss, potentially around £4 million. Because we entered the crisis with a strong balance sheet, we have been able pretty much to protect our people and maintain our business infrastructure, so we will get through this. We do expect our revenues next year to continue to be adversely affected to some extent, and as you've heard, we have had to take some steps to restructure our business to bring it into line with our anticipated revenues, which we think will be a bit lower. Let me just say a few words around development activities following on from what the Chairman said. The One Oval Square development was financed with a mixture of our own cash, long-term bank debt and the mini bonds. And the mini bond issue this time was fully subscribed by our members, and I would like to thank members for their support. The support of our members in a club like this is a huge asset to us, and as you've heard, we don't take that for granted. Despite current uncertainties, the business case for One Oval Square in the medium term remains very robust, as well as providing terrific new facilities for members. On Oval House Theatre, we have exchanged contracts for the purchase of that site, and it does represent a rare and significant opportunity to acquire some land on our perimeter. The planning consent we've secured to build a hotel on that site very much underpins its long-term value. Clearly, there are some short-term market uncertainties, and so we are proceeding with caution. We deferred completion of the purchase until October, and we are currently reviewing our funding and timing options for the development. Finally, as you've seen, we're seeking members' approval to amend the club rules to increase the club's borrowing limits from £30 million to £60 million. And we're doing this so we can continue to develop the Oval, and we can continue to invest in the future of the club. And Richard's shown you some outline of some of our plans for that. Just to put this in context, the current limit of 30 million was set 16 years ago in 2004. Since then, the club is now much bigger. Since then, our membership has doubled. Our turnover, our revenue is more than 4 times what it was in 2004. And incidentally, in 2004, our profit was £10,000, and this year, or last year, it was £6.3 million. Currently, market interest rates are very low and likely to remain so for some time, and we are an attractive proposition to lenders. Because of our financial track record, we are able to borrow on very favourable terms. At our last balance sheet date, again to put it in context, our borrowings were £24 million before the One Oval Square development. And with our current plans, a limit of 60 million provides a comfortable level of headroom and gives us the flexibility to borrow when it's appropriate, but at the same time maintain and build a prudent level of cash reserves in the club. And we are, of course, seeing the value of that approach right now. So 2019 was an outstanding year for the club. 2020 is a very difficult year. Because we had a strong business before the crisis, and because of our prudent approach to building reserves and cash, we are able to withstand these financial challenges and protect the club for the future. Importantly, we have an outstanding management team. They are managing this crisis with great skill and dedication. And I am confident, therefore, that we will emerge strong and well positioned to return to the levels of growth and profit we have seen over the last few years. So I am happy to second the resolution to adopt the report and accounts. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. I think this is an appropriate time before we go on to items 2, 3 and 4 to digest everything you've heard and have the opportunity to ask everyone on the top table questions relating to the annual report and accounts. So we're going to do this both remotely and within the room. And we are taking every precaution with regards to social distancing, with regards to the microphones. They will be cleaned after use and they will be on a pole so no one gets too close to you. So we're doing everything we can to make this as safe as we can for you. So we're compiling questions online, and as we do compile questions online, happy to now take questions from the floor. Who would like to be first? Question here. If you could state your name, please, when you get the microphone, and then ask the question. Thank you.
Yes, good evening. Christopher Watts. My question is, well, perhaps I could just start with an anecdote. I'm so old, I can remember the 1980s when the club was virtually bankrupt. Now, with all due respect to the management then, the fact is the management now seems substantially better. But even against that background and the financial strength of the club, is this, in these times of uncertainty, is this a good time to extend the borrowing limit from 30 million to 60 million?
I'll hand that to the Treasurer and then I will add to Martin's answer. Martin?
The scale of the club, as I outlined, is completely different, and we have a momentum. This is nothing to do with the virus, and the current predicament that everybody finds themselves in. This is about making sure we have the flexibility to keep investing going forward when we need to. It doesn't mean we're about to go and borrow £60 million by any means, but it's not the sort of thing you want to keep coming back to the members constantly for. I should point out that as you can see, we generated £7 million of cash last year. This is not a company, so we don't have to pay dividends to shareholders. So any cash made in this club is reinvested in the club. And the nature of what we spend on our capital expenditure is it is periodic and it's lumpy. And so we try to build cash reserves and then blend that with borrowing to take steps forward on investment rather than waiting until we've accumulated all the cash required to do so. The flip side of not having shareholders that you don't have to pay dividends to is you can't raise money from shareholders either. So everything we finance is done with debt. The definition of borrowings in the club rules includes, for example, debentures and various other forms of effectively income, which is technically borrowings. So it's a little bit different from a corporate, and we proceed always with caution, and we do maintain cash reserves, as you've seen. You don't want to get caught in a crisis with no cash.
And to add to that, Christopher, what I would say, I think the slide which Martin put up shows the context of the club has changed out of all recognition. And what we don't want to do as a club is find ourselves where we've got to borrow from sources we would rather not have done, which we've done in the past at our cost. We don't want to sell life memberships. We would much rather have the ability to do this, the option to do it, and also enable us not to miss out on something. I think the MCC is a good example of this with their tunnels at the nursery end and how that's hamstrung their development. If they, in hindsight, could have bought those tunnels, it would have transformed that ground. And I don't want to look back and feeling the first time in 80 years where any land has become available that we can't buy it. Now, actually, we're paying pretty much over our own cash reserves for the land for the hotel. But we need the option to do this. And this was, I think, first tabled the middle of last year. So this is not a COVID-related borrowing request. This is absolutely nothing to do with that. It happens to coincide with it, but we made sure that this was well thought through and prudent, in line with the fact that all our decisions have been prudent, hence the fact we had an incredibly strong balance sheet coming into this crisis, which I think has insulated us from some of the ravages that other businesses have found themselves in. And we will continue to exercise that same level of prudence. And by asking for this facility to be increased is giving us the option, nothing more than the option, to be able to borrow if we need to, and to ensure that our borrowings can fulfill our ambitions. Okay. Next question.
Yes, Chairman, we were going to take one from online.
We'll do one here quickly and then we'll come online. Sorry. In the middle here. If you can state your name.
Good evening again, Robert Harris.
Thank you, Robert.
This question's about the hotel. And I just would welcome a bit of reassurance that you really are confident about going ahead with that. It's a very different kind of activity from areas where we have, or you have, recognised expertise. There may well be implications on future use of the hotel as a result of distance stuff, which actually may make movement around a little bit different. And I'm guessing if we've exchanged contracts, we've already made a fairly substantial commitment towards it. But that is a sunk cost. And I think it would be reassuring for me to know that those factors alone, in spite of them all, you still intend and are confident that going ahead with a hotel is the right thing to do for the club and not risky at this stage.
No, it's a very good question. I'm going to pass that question to Richard to answer in full, but we know what our strengths are and we have no intention of running this hotel. We are sticking very much to what we're very good at and working with an operator we believe is the right partner in this context. So I think Richard can give more flavour and colour to answering that question.
Yeah, the project is in two parts. The first one is the acquisition of the land. The second one is the development of the hotel. The first one, the acquisition of land, is something that we're very, very confident about and is something that we need to deliver. Clearly, we are not going to proceed with the hotel development until the fog clears somewhat. We do have a contract with a hotel operator, but that aside, even that, we will wait until we're absolutely confident. So it may well be that we purchase the land and land bank it until it is the right time to proceed, but we're certainly not going to be...
in no rush.
Yeah.
And ironically, it's quite fashionable to be biosecure at the moment. So if we'd had it and we were Old Trafford or Hampshire, we could be hosting a test match. So who knows what the future holds. But I think the important thing is it creates new revenue streams. It divests ourselves from our core business. And it is a very modest hotel. We're not looking to build, a new whatever. But I think this is a very well thought through plan. So if we can go to a couple of questions online and then we'll come back to the floor.
Yes, one from online from Rob Hilton, which I think is for Andrew Lane. Is the projected £4 million loss based on no membership refunds?
Yes, that is correct. At the moment, we've waited until we're going to see what size and shape the season is and what will be delivered to members. And as Richard outlined earlier, we'll then take a decision about what happens with membership. But that is made on the assumption that the membership subscriptions stay in.
Just as an adjunct to that, and there were comments coming online with regards to Quins having issued a system. We know that Lancashire have done something similar. I think our aim is to wait until the end of the season to see how much cricket and value we can deliver, and then learn from the others to make sure that we don't take our members for granted. That's clearly something that we don't want to do. And if we were to do that, that would have a very long-term effect, because if we upset and annoy our members, they won't renew next year. And you can see that our business is largely based on the increase of members that we've seen for the last 10 years. We don't intend to do anything that would upset that pattern.
Do you want to take another question online?
Yes. Have any players or staff tested positive for COVID-19? Alec?
No, our players haven't been tested. A couple early on possibly had it, but the tests weren't in place then. That was before lockdown. The England players have been tested, but none of our players have been. So they've all behaved pretty sensibly, I think, I hope. And currently, touch wood, it will continue in that vein.
Great. Another question from the floor? Anything at all? Question over here? Two questions. Lizzie first. Second.
I'm Joe Ryan.
Hi, Joe.
It's a cricket question. Alec, do we know when the next fixtures are, or if we don't, when are they going to happen?
It will start on 1st of August, 4-day cricket. The fixtures, Chief may know more, I think will be out probably by the end of the week.
The first thing they need to understand is how many counties are going to participate in all the competitions, and once they've done that, they'll be able to work through the fixture list. It'll be the first class competition fixture list that gets released first. The 2020 will get released later on in the year.
Great. The schedule is to have four-day games in August, and then one, I think it's penciled in for 6th of September, the 4-day game, with the 2020 starting around the 26th, I think, of August, going through to the finals on the 24th, and then the 4-day final end of September, start of October.
I think the other great news is that recreational cricket and club cricket is coming back this Saturday, and that couldn't have happened any sooner, and hopefully it will prove that the cricket ball is not a vector of disease, and it is safe to play cricket. So that's one release as well. So looking forward to the club cricket returning in a few days. A question from Lizzie.
Thank you. I mean, first of all, on that point, I'm very excited to be umpiring my first game of the season on Saturday with under 14 girls. So I'm very excited to do that. My question is, I am supportive of both the proposal to extend the borrowing limit and also the proposal to buy the land at opposite the Oval. I think it's important that we take that opportunity to secure our future and to have that opportunity going forward, whatever we decide to do with the land. My question is, do we think we as a club as a whole have appetite potentially for another mini bond in order to kind of support the acquisition of the land rather than going to a bank?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I'll pass that to Martin, but I mean, the mini bonders, we've had 2 mini bonds. They've been very well received. We've been, I think, relatively generous with interest rates. And obviously what's happened since then, the interest rates have now gone to historical lows. So bank borrowing has become quite more attractive. And because we have a very successful business here, we are a very attractive proposition for investment from banks. So I think what I liked about the mini bond, it was an opportunity for members really to engage. So I think it's something we will consider for the future, depending on circumstances, but it's proven to be a very valuable source of investment for us. Martin, would you like to add anything to that, or Andrew maybe?
Just in terms of the mini bond, the structure of it, it is quite a build-up to actually launch one. It's about 6 months from start to finish. So in timing terms, it's probably a bit beyond us for this in any event. The other thing as well with the mini bond is outside of the interest rate that's offered, one of the things which has come through very strongly is how much members have engaged with a project at the Oval in terms of the stand and the buildings, the members' facilities that we'll see. I would probably be slightly nervous just in terms of whether we got the same engagement from individuals for a venture that's outside of the stadium. And again, as Martin said, we did sell out in the members' priority period, although only just by about 24 hours of the 2 weeks this time to get to the 7 million. We'd have to do some pretty careful research to understand whether we'd got the last 7 million or if there was another 7 million out there.
Okay, thank you. We'll go online for a couple more questions.
Yes, there have been some questions with regards to the redundancies in the staff restructures, saying are they permanent posts or temporary posts, and would we look to rehire staff that have been let go if cricket returns next year? The posts that we have got under consultation are permanent posts, largely, although there are some summer posts. We do have a number of summer contracts, and there's between 18 and 20 posts that we're currently looking at removing. With regards to rehiring staff, we hope so. Most of the staff, sadly, are in the events business and the sales side of things, and we hope that as soon as we get onto the positive side of the V-shaped return, we'll be able to rehire people as quickly as possible, because we've got some very strong plans for the future.
I think to add to that as well, one thing that we've learnt from possible mistakes in the past is that our joint venture with Compass has ensured that our staff aren't all employed by Surrey. So it gives us the opportunity to flex up and to flex down. So we're not carrying an enormous overhead 12 months of the year. So coming into this crisis, we didn't have a significant staff that other organisations have had to deal with, because we embraced the outsourcing with Compass to ensure we still got the best and the best people out there, but without necessarily carrying that very significant overhead. So I think that the cutbacks could have been a lot worse. And as Richard said, if we can rehire the right people, we absolutely will do. Are there any further questions from the room before we go? 2 more questions from the room, and then we'll go online. So question here and then a question there. Come to you later. Thank you.
Sorry, Qureshi, although I feel a bit like Freddie Mercury with this microphone. Firstly, I wanted to extend, it's a cricketing question essentially, but I wanted to extend congratulations to Vikram on his appointment as head coach. I think it's an example of Surrey leading from the front yet again in terms of recruiting one of the few coaches from a BAME background within the professional game. And of course, there's Ebony within the women's game. However, as we all know, there's been lots of debate recently around the low levels of BAME representation throughout the game at all levels. So my question is, what is the club doing to kind of encourage more BAME representation within the club and indeed within the county?
Richard, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, can I focus on British-born black players at the moment, because that is where cricket is not doing a good enough job. Specifically, when you look at the number of black players playing at the highest levels of football and even rugby, we are indexing well underneath those. And that's why we've launched the African Caribbean Engagement Programme. We think that we need to do a lot more work, and we need to be a lot more positive. We need to go out, find that talent in the way that football does. Football does it extremely aggressively, finds the talent, brings it in and develops it. You ask yourself why the question, why are we behind? And I think in part it's because, and Alec will have a view and Vikram might, because I'm not a cricketer, but when I look at it, it's because of the technical aspects. In cricket, the technical aspects are so important, and you have to have that technical education at an early age. The strength and the speed and the power comes later, perhaps, in cricket, whereas in football and rugby, strength and power is identified early on, and then the technical element is perhaps put on as a second phase. So we need to do more to provide that technical overlay at a younger age with not just young black players, but from any background where they don't have the time, the resource, perhaps the money, the educational opportunities to get that technical overlay as quickly as possible. But Alec, do you want to comment?
Yeah, the ACE programme, we're not going to see the reward straight away, but what it's doing is opening up doors which had been closed probably in recent times. So I think that's a really positive move, and we'll see that develop over the coming years. And then from the Asian background, I think if you see our age group cricket, there are a number of very promising young Asian girls and boys whose careers you hope will progress as they want, and obviously as we want as well. And again, it's a time thing, but we're fully aware of everything. Again, with Vikram, yes, it's good, but also he has earned that right. As I say, I've known Vikram for a very, very long time, and when he was asked about the BAME things, yes, he's played it down, and I think, right, because I like to judge people on what they can do, and I know, and I'm very, very confident, as I said at the start, that Vikram is a really, really good choice for all reasons, as well as obviously his background and upbringing.
And Vic, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think
all said. I mean, I think the ACE programme, we were ahead of the game in introducing the ACE programme specifically. We're also conducting a governance review as well to ensure that our core governance principally at board level, is representative of both gender and diversity. We're looking at a D&I cover. I think we've done, it's not, to say you've done better isn't good enough, frankly, but we know we have done better than most, but you can always do better. And this is a very big subject at the moment, and we live in a community, in an area of great multicultural society, so we've got to make the most of that and ensure we represent that society. So it's a very hot topic at the top table at the moment, that's for sure. Further questions from the floor before we go online? Question in the corner over here, gentlemen. And one final question after this one. Thank you.
Hi, Mark Lawson. Firstly, I'd like to reiterate, I think Vic Graham's appointment was on merit, actually, and I thought he handled his press conference with the assorted press, I think, last week very well indeed. My question relates to finances, actually. Given the variance of the robustness of the financial accounts across the counties, could Richard Gould give us an insight into how close it was to a breakaway last week? You've already alluded tonight that some counties might not wish to play red ball. I just wondered, how fractious we are at the moment, and also looking forward, because I think I read in the release that we shouldn't force other counties to play red ball if they don't want to.
No, thank you. There's a similar question online from Bob Bayliss. Does the split vote that we've seen this week suggest there may be a divergence within the game going forward? I don't know, in truth. I think some of the reasons that people wanted to play white ball cricket this year rather than 4-day cricket was based on logistics and travel and all the rest of it. Yes, and indeed the additional cost of running it. I think clubs with a smaller membership base and a smaller supporter base perhaps don't have the same priority as we do to ensure that we always have a large, engaged crowd wanting to come and see us. Our aim is to play top-class cricket in front of full stadia, and we're lucky to be pushing in that direction. Other counties are less lucky, and perhaps they're making their decisions from a different point of view.
I think that was very diplomatically put. I would add to that to say that we obviously lobbied very, very hard for red ball. And that vote was won, and we are very pleased that vote was run. To have a summer of no first-class cricket would be unconscionable. So it's fortunate that I think the right decision was made, and I hope the whole game, all 18 counties, come together and embrace the decision and want to play red ball cricket and then white ball cricket in September. Okay, a final question, sir, in the middle. Jeff, you wait for the microphone, sir, sorry. Would you like to state your name?
My name is Gerald Coleman. Okay. All right, not Coleman. All right. Following on from a friend here, as far as I'm aware, the boys that play cricket are mostly middle-class boys because they still have the cricket pitches, because working-class boys don't have the pitches at their schools. So will you include white working-class boys in your remit for what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Not just, West Indian and Asian boys.
We're very definite that there are some times that where we really have to target particular communities where we have not engaged properly beforehand, particularly on the talent ID element. But we aim to find all of the best talent across London, Lambeth, and indeed the programme that we've been putting together is now being taken on by Sport England and is going to be used for a variety of sports across a variety of different demographics and cities. But very, very definitely, we want to be, as I said, the most inclusive club in the country, and we will make sure that we are.
Yeah, and we want to find the best talent from every part of our community, every part, and that means every part. And we have a big community from Vauxhall to north of Guildford. It's a very big constituency, and we need to reach out to all of it, which we're attempting to do.
We can just add as well, it's a good question, and we are always looking, whatever background. And also you have to understand that some of the players that have been at private schools, because obviously cricket facilities are better, coaching is better, have actually been given scholarships. So the background that they've been brought up in, they've actually been given sporting or cricket scholarships. So I'm not saying it's a false table, but it may not always be a true table, if that makes sense. But I'm with you. I'm looking at any good cricketer, whatever background, whatever colour, we're up for it.
Absolutely. Great. I think we've got one final question online.
Yeah, moving to final question online, and I'm sorry we haven't got to every question online, but thank you very much for putting them in, and please do get hold of me, email me or text me thereafter, and I'll make sure I'll answer every question. But the question online is really with regards to are we going to see crowds this season, and how are we feeling about that? I'm really positive that we will find a way of getting crowds in, and earlier rather than later. I see Steve in the crowd from our local church, and you managed to get a very good congregation in on Sunday. We're waiting for the government guidelines to be issued. We are confident that the government does want to get crowds back in to open stadia. I think it's different for the cultural, for theatres, and certainly we've seen what the government has done this week in terms of providing financial support to them. I don't think the government are going to want to bail out football in terms of attendees, and I do think that there's a lot of confidence that we can find a safe way for people to return. It may only be 30% or 40% in terms of capacities, but it will be something. And certainly for Championship cricket, I'm hoping that we can welcome our members back sooner rather than later. And indeed, it will be our members that will have the highest priority, also moving into the T20s. If we have a reduced capacity, all of that capacity will be given across to our 13,500 members in the first instance to make sure that they have the opportunity to return to their club this summer. That's our absolute priority.
I think any way we can reward loyalty, we will. Every opportunity we can to get you in this ground, we will. And I think you can see by the fact we've reconstituted the roof terrace as a beer garden, shows you that we can be creative and find ways of getting you back and giving you some value for your membership. But, we live in very uncertain times, but we want to try everything we can to ensure we get to see some cricket. So look, thank you for the questions. I mean, you can certainly buttonhole myself, Richard, or anyone from the top table at the end of the meeting if we didn't get the chance to cover off a question. And as Richard said, we've had a lot of questions online as well, which we will collate and try and come back to those online members as well to ensure that those questions are answered. So moving back to the agenda, I would now formally like to propose that the club rules as worded by our legal team at Wedlake Bell be formally altered to reflect a borrowing limit of £60 million. Could I now ask for a proposer and a seconder to amend those club rules? Proposed by Matt T and seconded by Joe Ryan. Thank you. And if I can now in the room ask for a show of hands for those for the increase in borrowing limits. Thank you. And those against? Okay, 2. Thank you. And those using Zoom now have the opportunity to vote. Got a few seconds, feels like a long time when it's silent. And the votes are now in, and we can confirm.
Online we have a 94% majority, and we required a 70% majority, so the motion is carried on.
I can confirm that's carried. Thank you. So on to item 3 of the agenda, I'd like to propose that Deloitte, as our club auditors, are reappointed for the coming year. And if I could ask for a proposer and a seconder to reappoint Deloitte as our club auditors. Thank you, sir. And seconded. Thank you. So if I can have a show of hands for those in the room to reappoint Deloitte as auditors. Those are for. Any against? Thank you. And those using Zoom, if they can now vote.
And we have 96% support, 4% against.
And the vote was carried in the room as well. Thank you. So on to the annual report that you would have hopefully had the opportunity to see and we have discussed. Having proposed and seconded that already by myself and Martin Eden, I would now like to ask for a vote in the room. Those that are voting for our reported accounts for 2019? Thank you. And any against? Thank you. And those at home on Zoom, if they could now be voting. This is our final vote, and I'm going to be so relieved when we finish this item.
And 100%.
Wonderful. And 100% in the room. Great. Technology has not let us down. Thank you very much indeed for adopting the annual report and accounts. And I'd now like to move to item 5 of the agenda, starting with the election of the Surrey President. The General Committee have nominated Ken Schofield for re-election as our President this year in 2020, and standing unopposed, I therefore declare Ken elected. Thank you, Ken, and I'd like to invite Ken. I would like to invite Ken to come and say a couple of words. Ken, if you welcome Ken Schofield to the podium. Thank you, Ken. Do you want to come to the podium, Ken?
Thank you, Chairman. Evelyn and I very much appreciate the confidence expressed by all members in enabling us to continue for this second year. Very briefly, we wish to thank all past presidents and all members of the General Committee last year who so supported us to the extent that the committee room, I think, was universally seen as one of the most positive environments in all of sport, and we thank you for that. Going forward, I think on behalf, if we may, of all members, all 13,000 plus of our members, I think it's appropriate for myself to express appreciation to our Chairman and our Chief Executive for all of the work that they have done behind the scenes in ensuring that first-class cricket will return within the next 3 weeks. All of us who've had the privilege of being party to the Zoom General Committee calls and meetings know that it's been not a home run for Surrey to carry the support necessary to have proper first-class cricket be played in the current environment. So to both Richards, please accept, on behalf of everyone here this evening, everyone on Zoom, and all of our members who will want to come back to the Oval next month, as and when the government makes it possible, may we express our appreciation. Finally, the wishes that we have is that all within the very special Surrey cricket family keep safe and well, so that they can, everyone who wants to come back to the Oval can, or follow the team, and all of us would express to Alec, to Vikram, and indeed to Ebony, both on the men's team and the women's team, our very best wishes, and you will have our full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. We have had an extraordinarily illustrious list of Surrey presidents over our 175-year history, and I can't think of anyone that's worked as hard as Ken across the last 2 years. Well, 3 years as Deputy President, 1 year as President. I only feel for both of you this year that you are yet to enter the committee room and do what you do brilliantly and act as a fantastic ambassador for us both, home and away, and bring such credit to the club, and we're very proud and very pleased to have you as President. Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, Ken. Moving on to Deputy President, the General Committee have nominated David Pakeman for a second year to be re-elected as Ken's Deputy, as Deputy President, and standing unopposed, I declare David elected. Congratulations, David. Thank you. The General Committee have nominated Martin Eden, superb Treasurer, as Treasurer for the forthcoming year, and standing unopposed, I declare Martin elected. Thank you, Martin. And moving on to club honours, we have two honours. One is the Honorary Life Vice President, which is the gift of the whole club and is voted on at the AGM. I can confirm that this year there are no nominations for Honorary Life Vice President, so I can confirm that item 5 is concluded. However, we have three nominations for Honorary Life Vice President that I will come on to. But before I do that, I will hand over to Martin to discuss and to announce the following members of the General Committee that have been re-elected for a further 4 years. Martin.
Okay, so the General Committee election, those were the 9 candidates for election, and the successful candidates were Richard Thompson, 1,871 votes, Bob Qureshi, 1,159 votes, Martin Searle, 1,035 votes, and Philip Garrard, 966 votes. So many congratulations to those 4 successful candidates.
Thank you, and thank you personally also for your support. And also thank you to those 4 members that were standing down that have been absolutely outstanding. Mike Reeve, who's in the room, Rowley Walton, David Gill, who's also in the room, and Mark Butcher, for their service across the last 4 years, have brilliantly managed to bring together 4 very different aspects of the Surrey community, from the dining club to club cricket to the broader Surrey community. And as a former player, we've been very fortunate to have you. Thank you very much for your contribution. And as I said earlier, we have 3 nominations that have been recommended to the General Committee for club honours and have been appointed the following honour of becoming an honorary life member of this great club. Firstly, Phil Everest. Known to some of you, I'm sure, he was nominated for honorary life membership of the Surrey Cricket Foundation some years ago and awarded an Oscar, a Lifetime Achievement Award, in 2015. Phil's outstanding service to youth cricket in Surrey for many, many years have deserved recognition by the County Club in honouring him now as an honorary life member. Our second is Keith Best. Keith Best has been the life and soul of Churchley Cricket Club for 57 consecutive years. Including being the chairman and fixture secretary, Keith has devoted a huge part of his life to Churchley and has been nominated for honorary lifetime membership by the Surrey Cricket Foundation and has also awarded an Oscar in 2019. And he can now add to that honour that of honorary life member. Congratulations to Keith and Phil. We have one final nomination, which is very special. Somebody that is known to everyone in this room, and I'm sure everybody online as well. She married, she met her now husband when she was at school at 15, and they both were big cricket fans. This lady has done so much for the club as one of the great unsung heroes, not just producing the person that topped the vote in the greatest 11, but being the better half of course, Mickey Stewart. And it is my honour to nominate Sheila Stewart for honorary lifetime membership of this club. I can confirm Sheila Stewart is an honorary life member. Thank you. So finally, I would like to finish on a small video of what makes this club special to you, because this is a club for all of us. As Richard has said, this is a club that strives to be the most inclusive club, and we have always strived to be that, and we will continue to be that. And to be part of this club, you become part of a family. And there's one quote I'd like to share with you from 1940 that I think shows the term Surrey family has been in existence for many, many years. And I'll read directly from a recent biography, because I'm sure we've all had the chance to read a bit more in lockdown. And it's as follows. Alec and Eric Bedser were beginning the long, slow retreat from Dunkirk, where the evacuation begun and was underway. The lanes were packed with weary and dishevelled men with no option to walk the 40 miles to the coastline for saviour. As the Bedsers made that same journey, a van pulled up alongside them. It was a Surrey member from Wimbledon. They recognised the 2 familiar figures at the side of the road and motioned them to hop in. The driver said, "We can't leave you 2 behind, you're too important." They jumped in, and with that, the 3 members of the Surrey family set off through the long, winding country roads of northern France to home and to safety. And thank God they came home. That was a long time ago. We're in a period of crisis now, and I'm sure we're all reaching out for each other. This has been a difficult meeting, but actually thanks to you in the room and thanks to you online, has run very smoothly. So we appreciate everybody's attendance, both online and in the room, and your contribution. And I will leave you with a short video of what does Surrey mean to you. Thank you very much.
What does Surrey County Cricket Club mean to me? Surrey means everything. It's near enough my second family, my second home, and it's certainly been a big part of my life.
Incredibly special.
The people's home of cricket.
I love it.
The unbridled joy of walking through its gates will forever be a privilege.
New beginnings.
It's a cold beer on a warm day.
Brotherhood.
No jacket, no tie, no bother.
Surrey cricket means everything to me.
The Oval isn't just about cricket, it's about the whole experience.
Family.
Tradition and pride.
The best day out you can have in London.
Surrey is just a lovely, lovely club.
What does Surrey mean? It means so many things. It means family. It means lifelong friends. It means enjoying lifelong memories. It means enjoying the highs but accepting the lows. It means leading and not following. It means making history and being the best. It means everything. Thank you very much indeed. Stay safe and see you soon. Thank you.